welcome back to E! Entertainment. You're looking at today's hottest up-and-coming artists on the second half of 2001. There's a young man who erupted from the Chicago streets. His name is Negative D, and he's making a name for himself through his obnoxious actions and outrageous song lyrics. Song topics include blowjobs, chronic drug use, domestic violence, and cold-blooded murder. Nevertheless, his first full-length album, entitled Unleashed, will be out in stores this fall. We sat down with this self-proclaimed one-man militia and got the scoop on his life, his hoes, and his music. In 5 words, describe Negative D.
Negative D is honest, truthful, sexy, and rough.
That was only 4.
Right. Rapper.
Negative D was born Shane Honda in the small town of Slinger, Wisconsin, a town known for its agriculture, stock car racing, and gorgeous downhill skiing. However, it's a place he describes as difficult growing up.
You know, the population was only around 2,000, but that's a seedy population, you know what I'm saying? It's a city that's overrun with the dope fiends and hustlers and killers and gang-banging thugs, you know? You know, Slinger's the kind of place you don't want to be around unless you got a Glock by your side, you know? 16 in the clip, 1 in the hole was the saying, you know? That's why I started carrying a gun by the age of 5.
Street life proved tough for Negative D, but he survived the only way he knew how, by beginning to deal drugs at the age of 8. He also endured a tough upbringing thanks to an abusive father and mother with problems of her own. Tell me about your parents.
I had a very abusive father, and as a result of that, my mother she had mental problems. She was very disturbed. My father beat me! He had a paddle! He'd use it on my ass!
I can understand.
My mama was never there!
Was that because of the disorders?
My father had beaten her senseless. I suppose that's where I pick up my abusive ways, because now I beat the shit out of women too. Yeah.
When the going gets tough, the tough get going. Negative D knew he had to leave Wisconsin and fast. He didn't know what was in store or how drastically his life was about to change.
So, when I was 15 years old, I got my friend seen money to tip me off about a car. I stole a car, you know. I'll say that in front of the cameras, you know. I stole a car at the age of 15. I stole a car and I went down to Chicago. I dropped out of high school, and that's where my gangster ways were set in stone for life.
It didn't take long for Negative D to establish himself along Chicago's south side. Now dropped out of high school and with no plans for the future, Negative D turned hard to more drugs and alcohol in obscene amounts, a time he remembers as fun.
It was something I was good at. I liked taking drugs. I found that out from my father. I had drugs coming from every direction, you know. I had people on every street corner that all knew me by name. Negative D, they'd hook it up, you know. Negative D was living large with the drugs. But the drugs were nice. The drugs were good to Negative D.
But what Negative D didn't know was that with continued drug abuse, he became a danger to himself and those around him. He often suffered mental breakdowns, and many didn't give him long until a total mental relapse. However, this was when Negative D, the rapper, was born. The world would never be the same again. Negative D hustled and dealed for 5 years. It was in this time that he developed a love and skill for rapping. With a deal inked at locally owned Rump Records, he now resides in this apartment building. He took me on a tour of his so-called hood, the highlights and the lowlights. He's got a million stories to tell. We ate at Taco Bell, and afterwards we discussed what life is like for him now as a paid recording artist. Now, what changes have you had in you, like you're growing growing fan base?
Well, you know, Negative D is always just gonna be Negative D, you know what I'm saying? I'm still pimping the hoes, you know. I do live in a nicer place now than I used to. Nice little apartment complex down here in Chicago. Can't take the bite out of this dog, you know what I'm saying?
Times are good for Negative D, but he suffered a painful loss when his twin brother, Chris Honda, died in a tragic car accident. He was drunk and he had wet himself.
Man, that was tough, man. That was tough. Losing Chris like that, shit, man. You know, you don't even see it coming. And, you know, he was my dog. You know, my twin brother and my dog. It's like losing a best friend and a brother, you know. But, you know, you just gotta... What I do is I take that anger, that aggression, and I turn it into music that people can relate to, you know?
Surfing and posting himself on the net is what got Negative D all his attention and recent success. He recently released the video for his first single entitled Swallow My Meat.
Throw it up, break out the blunts, cause we all gotta get a dick sucked tonight. And if the girl they don't like it,
Cool.
that's alright. I'ma knock you to the floor while you scream and shout. Then I reach for the zipper.
Put the motherfucker out.
1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 for the week. Now blow it, blow. Lick it up and down. Go on.
Negative D. Your first single is called Swallow My Meat. Now, how did you get that name? What is it about?
It's about hot bitches blowing cock.
And that was round 1 of the fight. I don't care if you're scared of my kind of pole. Lift up your hair and prepare to swallow whole. Rolling down the street, bobbing heads, move to the beat, sipping on syrup.
Now, what do you think of the critics who tracked down your
Swallow my
songs?
meat.
Man, fuck the critics, you know what I'm saying? The critics don't know shit. They ain't been through hell like I have, you know? They ain't spent a day on the street. And until they do, they better shut their mouths and reserve judgment. You know? The only one who's gonna be handing out judgment is gonna be Negative D. You're gonna be handing out big handfuls of judgment. I'll take a big scoop of my judgment and land it over here, you know? I'll hand out another big scoop of judgment over there. I'll hand out another scoop of judgment.
Now at the top of his game, Negative D is putting the finishing touches on his upcoming debut album. He told us a bit about it.
The album is called Unleashed. You know, standing for me, Negative D, being unleashed amongst the public, you know? I'm like a rabid dog. You know, I got all these guest MCs to come join me on the record, including a bunch of my friends I like to call Scrappy Boys. They're making a few appearances on the record. There's the preview right there. Yeah. Unleashed is gonna be the shit.
Regardless of your opinion of Negative D, he's on his way. His album Unleashed will be in stores this fall. With your entertainment, I'm Holly Robinson, and stay tuned.